Hi, this is Laura Sarchet, the Inclusive Higher Education GA at the University of Rochester. We are in part 4 of our 9-part series on teaching self-advocacy skills, and today we are learning about self-reflection. The goal of today is that you will leave with a better understanding of how self-reflection contributes to self-advocacy, and as always, identify one action step for your own practice. So in teaching our students about the process of self-reflection, we can both teach ourselves how to do self-reflection and model to our students, and we can also explicitly teach our students how to do this, just like any other skill related to self-advocacy. So the goal for students is that they will begin to identify strengths, needs, interests, and preferences. They'll understand why it's important to know themselves well, and they will understand the practice or process of asking themselves self-reflective questions. And these also apply to us as professionals as well, that we can always work on these skills too. So I'd like you to take a few seconds to reflect. One perspective, start by thinking about yourself. Is it easy or challenging to identify your strengths, needs, and interests? How well do you know yourself? And why do you think it's important to know ourselves? Now let's shift our thinking a little bit and take a second perspective, thinking about our students. You can think about your students as a whole, or you can think about one specific student if that's helpful for you. Think about, is it easy or challenging for your students to identify their strengths, needs, or interests? How well do your students know themselves? Why is it important for our students to know themselves? So hopefully you spent some time thinking about those questions. And now we're going to dive into the actual process of self-reflection. So the way we're looking at this today is a very broken down, scaffolded way. We've talked many times about how looking at things one step at a time is really helpful for our neurodiverse students. So we have very specific steps for how to self-reflect during the process of self-advocacy. So to practice this, we can think about any situation. So for example, I might think of the situation of I'm walking into class and my seat that I usually sit in is taken by someone else. So I can think of that situation for myself. I can pick a situation that my students might be in. So now we're going to follow 4 steps. First, how do I feel in this situation? So the feeling that I might be feeling is uncomfortable, or I might identify the feeling of nervous. But then we need to push ourselves a little further and say, what about the situation makes us feel that emotion? I would say I'm feeling uncomfortable or nervous. And the thing about the situation that makes me feel that way is I like to sit in the same spot every day. So that's making me feel a little uncomfortable or nervous because I don't think I can sit in the same spot every day because someone's already there. So now we would identify, is this a strength or a need area, and how can we use this information? So this might be a need area for me because I know that I can be rigid and I like to sit in the same spot every day. I might need to ask for help. I might need to advocate for myself and speak up about finding a new seat. This can also be a strength area because I'm good at expressing myself in a calm way. So I can calmly look for another seat and say, hi, can I sit next to you, to a new person? So if we're thinking about self-reflection in a group, this 4th step is really great for students to help peers self-reflect. So a peer could offer suggestions to the person on what they could do to self-advocate in this situation. So if I was self-reflecting on this situation with a group of peers, one of my peers might say to me, Laura, you could self-advocate by asking that person if maybe you can sit there the following class, or asking a new person if you could sit next to them. So these are the 4 steps to self-reflection broken down in a way that is helpful for us and for our students to follow. So here are some examples of other situations that you might use for practicing self-reflection. Now notice that these situations all do not have to do with the classroom. Some of them have to do with the classroom, but some of them have to do with home or dorm life, or just being out in the community with other people. So I'd like you to take one of these or two of these and practice those 4 steps for yourself and really model identifying the feeling of the emotion. What about the situation makes you have that emotion? Is it a strength or need? And then that 4th step of what could you do to self-advocate? These are also situations that we could use if this was a practice activity with our students. So what about you? You're an expert in your classroom, and you can probably think of other situations that might come up where a student would feel a certain way and maybe have to advocate for themselves about a strength or a need in your classroom. So take some time to write down 3 different situations where you could practice these self-reflection skills with your students. And try to think about different settings. So not just the classroom, but also maybe campus or dorms or home, the community, maybe a work situation. And again, these are ways to practice the skill breakdown of how to self-reflect and modeling that. So the important piece about this is, what's the big deal, right? Why is it important for self-reflection to happen? So sometimes we take for granted that last step of self-advocating or of taking the next step. Some of our students and other people with neurodiversities may be kind of paralyzed in one of those first 3 steps, and they might get a little bit stuck and not know how to get to that last step of what to do and to take a step and take an action. So this breakdown is really important because talking about our strengths and needs helps us to be better self-advocates, to say what is helpful for us in that situation, or to independently solve a problem, which is also a piece of self-advocacy. So how can you model this self-reflection process to your students? Would this be an activity that you would like to do with your class? Think about some of those ideas and reach out to me with other ideas as always. You can reach me at ihega@rochester.edu. Thank you.